Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. We hear the term all the time in our industry, value add real estate or value add projects. And, that term is thrown around a lot, but there's many different parts of a value add business plan that we need to know about, especially if you are a passive investor or if you're an operator. You need to think about, is this a deep value add? Is this a light value add? How do we express that? How do we know what to do when we're talking about a value add type project? Well, I hope today you learn a lot from the highlights from these shows and these operators talking about value add projects. Have a blessed day. Our guest is Spencer Cullor. Thanks for being on the show, Spencer.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have Spencer on the show. He is a multifamily expert who specializes in adding value to real estate investments. He's now created over $10 million in equity in the last 7 years. He grew up in a family rock quarry business, and after college helped grow a software business before starting a real estate investment business with his father. Now it grows the business by putting together private investment groups where all can share in the success. So Spencer, thanks again for being on the show. I look forward to diving in a little bit in your experience and just in real estate, how you've grew this equity and some challenging things you're working on right now that we discussed. But give the listeners a little more about just who you are and what your focus is now and how you got there.
Sure. Like I said, my name is Spencer Cullor. I'm the president of ApartmentVestor. We put together private investment groups to go buy and add value to multifamily investments. We kind of focus on three things. One's improving the property that we're on, improving the community that we're in, and then improving our investors' bottom line. So those are kind of the things that drive us in our real estate investments and kind of why we really like multifamily investments.
So you said go through that list again, improving the property, and what was the second thing?
Improving the communities that we're in. By a lot of times we take on a challenging asset that maybe has had problems for the city or problems for an area, and we really clean it up. We get the city involved to really improve the profile of that property, and then we try to participate in the cities that we're involved in, and then provide improving our investors' bottom line.
Nice.
When we do all those things, so it's kind of a three-pronged approach we take to every investment.
No, I like that. I don't hear people talk about, the community very often. You and I talked a little bit about, just like solving challenging problems, and you like to focus on that, which is great. It's a good skill to have. Could you tell us about maybe a recent property, or get us started in a property where you had a recent challenge that you had to solve?
Sure. We recently bought two properties and then one down the street from it in an area. They're all within a block of each other. And after taking them over, we've, figured out a little more about some challenging tenants that were living in the area on the property, and some just challenges the area was having. So one of the things we did was immediately, and we do this on most of our investments, we get involved with the local community, with the police department, the city, to try to see what we can do to help, one, improve the property, and then with doing that, what can we do to help the area in general around it. And what we found with this is that, one, we get a lot of satisfaction out of this, but it makes you feel really good when you see an area start to turn, but it also really improves your property value, because rents start coming up all around you. You get your neighbors involved. They start raising rents as well. And then you can see profits really multiply when you do that. But we had a property that had some hidden challenges on the physical side. So we did a physical renovation. We did exterior, interior, and with that, We had to take the occupancy really low because we found out the previous ownership wasn't doing screening, all those type of things, weren't checking for criminal background. They were just kind of filling the property with anybody they could to keep it appear to be a certain occupancy so they could sell it. So one of the things we had to do before we could bring in the tenant profile that we needed was to clear out some of those challenges and challenging tenants that would have been better suited living someplace else. And then do the renovations so that we could attract the right kind of tenants. But in this particular block, it's in a really nice area all around it, but we had kind of a one block area that had at one point there was an ownership group that came in there that owned like 4 of the properties. They let them all run down. It went into probate and some other things, and so this area developed kind of a bad reputation. So one of the things we did was get all of our neighbors involved. We formed a neighborhood community watch group. We shared resources with security officers, and we shared banned books and all kinds of information back and forth with those people. We also got the city involved to see what we could do from a grant standpoint to, add more sidewalks to the area, what we could do from we got a lot of the foundations, churches around the area to help pitch in. And with that, we've seen really a resurgence of that area in the last 6 months, where everybody's kind of jumped on board, even the ones that were skeptical at first. And you're seeing everybody clean up their properties and start to do renovations and take pride in their properties, which is making the rents in the whole area go up. So it will end up helping their property values too, but it will definitely help ours as well.
So I hope you got a couple hours, because I got about 58 questions here about everything you said.
Sure.
So, I made a bunch of questions here, but could you give us a couple examples of the challenging tenants that maybe you weren't expecting? When before you purchased property, maybe you thought you knew about all of them, but then afterwards, like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. Well, we always expect a certain amount of turnover in a property when we take over, because we're usually taking over a property that's had some challenges, or the management company or ownership has kind of been burnt out or kind of given up over the course of so many years. So they've owned it for a long time, so some of them find interests other places and kind of lose focus on the properties, which there's no other asset class you can definitely not do that in multifamily. You might be able to do that in a nice retail center and get away with it, but multifamily is a living, breathing investment that you have to take care of and feed every day. Or it can go snowball on you. And a lot of times that's what's happened to an investor. So it wasn't by maybe malintent, but they just got ran down or they had some issues. So we always expect maybe a 10% drop in vacancy after we take over, and we plan that in. But on this particular property, on one of them, it was a 64-unit property, and we took it down to 2 tenants by the time we were done. Which we were doing some huge renovations, and the tenants were all way below rent, but when they started seeing what we were doing, a lot of the tenants weed themselves out. Yeah. They make decisions that they're not going to participate in one way or another. But we had some families that didn't pay any attention to their kids, and so we had a little gang of kids that were running around breaking windows every night, and so we were getting 4 or 5 windows broken a week. And so that was, I'm not used to taking care of that. We actually found somebody, and this is the strangest one I've had, running a delivery business restaurant out of their apartment, which was interesting. I think it wasn't that any one of those issues was unusual. It's that they were all at the same place and all at the same time. So dealing with so many of them at once, and then having to take the occupancy down so low, which can be a really scary thing, but you have to make that choice. Who are we going to be, and what's our property going to be? And so we made that conscious choice. And if people wouldn't get on board, they had to find someplace else where they could do what they wanted to.
Get your free copy of A Guide to Passively Investing in Commercial Real Estate. Inside, you'll learn the basics of passive income and real estate syndication, what kind of returns you can expect, how to find a sponsor, and how to evaluate the risks. Download your copy in the show notes or visit lifebridgecapital.com/invest better to start your investment journey.
Our guest is Rich Trepanier. Thanks for being on the show, Rich.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're a perfect guest. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And a little about Rich. He's a founder of Gage Multifamily Services based in Austin, Texas. With over 30 years of multifamily renovation experience, they have successfully sold and produced over 2,000 multifamily renovation projects throughout the U.S. Rich, thank you again for your time. Give the listeners a little more about who you are, and let's dive into this, this topic of renovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of summarized it pretty good there. My brother and I own Gage Multifamily Services based in Austin, Texas. We have offices in Austin and San Antonio. The name says it all. We focus just on multifamily renovation, 100%. Been doing it for about 15 years now, and 7 years as Gage Multifamily Services, where we decided to start our own business. We only do value add. We don't do new construction. So a lot of your listeners should get a lot of value out of this topic today.
Okay. So I guess first, why only value add?
Yeah. My brother and I, before we got to Austin, Texas, we lived in St. Louis for a little bit, and we did a lot of house renovation, but also dabbled in investments of 2s and 4 families in St. Louis. Got a lot out of that experience. We grew up with some construction experience and jumped in, did a lot of work ourselves. We saw a lot of value. Owning those 2s and 4s, we got to really see the appreciation from some of the residents that moved into those units after we were done. We did a lot of historic a lot of historic renovation of historic homes in St. Louis. And unfortunately, when 2008, 2009 came, we had to hurry up and get some jobs. So we saw the downgrade in the single family home, but we saw the strength of the multifamily home. And shortly thereafter, I moved to Texas. And as you know, multifamily is a large strength in Texas as well.
Wow. So you've seen that multifamily was so much stronger, or that business model,
yeah,
I guess we could say.
Yeah.
So,
it worked out really well.
So, could you just elaborate, or, just in short, like what value add is? Of course, we use that term all the time. I think most listeners have a good handle. However, it's used by so many people. I'd just love to hear your, definition.
Absolutely. And so we're in a perfect area between Austin and San Antonio, where you see a lot of different multifamilies transact between owners and sellers. And traditionally, as many of your listeners know, when an acquisition occurs, those new groups of investors want to provide value. They want to add to the community. They want to do upgrades. So they're adding value either through interior renovations, curb appeal, exterior renovations, let's just call it exterior paint and carpentry, some landscaping. We do an awful lot of leasing office renovation, clubhouse renovation, fitness renovation. And so adding value to the residents so they can increase rents, but also provide a home to the residents.
So, there's so many pitfalls when trying to do value add multifamily, right? And I thought, with your level of experience, I'd love for you to highlight some of those, and let's dig in a little bit.
Yeah. So we often deal with investors. Our goal as a business is to get to the decision makers who are acquiring these communities and get to them early enough where we can help them plan their CapEx budgeting. And so some of the pitfalls that we see is oftentimes one of my big things that I always cringe a little bit is that you hear people budget their CapEx by doors. And I'm a big proponent on those interior renovations, doing it based on square footage. And the reason is very simple. If you have $5,000 a door, That number works really well for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 700 square foot unit. But that doesn't translate very well to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot unit. And if you have $5,000, it just doesn't go very well. $5,000 might get you flooring and paint, but it won't get you that granite countertops, those new fixtures, those new faucets. So what I like to do, and when I meet with our investors that we work with, I like to tell them let's look at it from a square footage standpoint, that your money can go the farthest and that you can accomplish your business plan, which is let's renovate 72 units. Let's renovate 150 units. You're taking it throughout the entire business plan. Another one I see quite a bit of is no one provides contingency against that $5,000 per door budget. And so add a little bit of contingency on there, a little bit of whoops factor, a little bit of, something will happen. On my own business, the construction side of Gage Multifamily Services, we always add in between 3 to 5% contingency on our bid to our customers. And that helps us kind of alleviate any issues that we might not see during the budgeting process. And the other important one for everyone to remember, another really good pitfall is who manages the renovation process, the renovation project? Is it going to be your asset manager? Is it going to be the person with your boots on your ground in the city that you're not located in? Is it going to be your property manager? Property managers traditionally charge in between 5 and 7% roughly to manage your renovation project from start to finish. And that 5 to 7% is calculated based on the gross expenses for the renovation project.
Wow, some great topics there, or these pitfalls. And it's interesting talking about budgeting or capex by door. That's the way I see it all the time as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how you say we should break that down by square footage. And could you just give us a couple tips in breaking that down like that, or maybe how you go through that process?
Sure. For instance, a lot of times we see a capex interior renovation budget. Everyone wants to replace the flooring. So a good rule of thumb for me when we budget for flooring is usually $2 per square foot to take up and put down brand new flooring. We often see on a C-level renovation project, we also see resurfacing of countertops, kitchens, and baths. A good dollar value there is $150 to resurface your kitchen countertops, and then usually between $50 and $60 for your vanity countertops as well. A good budget value for interior paint per square footage is right around $1 traditionally is where we usually place it for per square footage for the unit space. And so we can go even further. We can talk about light fixtures and plumbing fixtures. It just depends on what class level the renovation project is. And then how far you want to go. I usually, for first-time investors who usually contact me, I usually tell them lipstick on a pig. Interior renovation for apartment community usually runs about $5.50 a square foot. And that would traditionally get you new flooring, interior paint, resurfacing of countertops, maybe a fixture or two, but it's really what it describes, lipstick on a pig. You're getting in there, you're renovating a unit quickly and trying to get residents back into the unit very fast.
We hope that you have enjoyed the highlight show today. You can always listen to the full episodes that were featured today by clicking the links in the description box. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode, or you can go to lifebridgecapital.com/podcasts and click the feedback button. Let us know how we can add more value to you. Thank you, and talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.